If you could bring conversations to a good stopping point and to a close. All right, great. So what I wanted to do kind of with this first block of time is get you a chance to really cement some prior knowledge. And so what I'm going to go through now are, again, essentially right out of the book are, what are some of the essentials then, or qualities as they put it, of an essential question? So one of the first things they talk about here is this concept of open-ended. This one's kind of tough to get your mind around, and I'll be honest, when I first started at the ISD, I've been at the ISD for 4 years, it was very difficult for me to sit down and write an essential question. How many have actually written an essential question? Have you done the process and written one? No? Okay. So when you first embark on writing one and really digging into it to really apply it to content, it's a very daunting task, because you have to keep all these different components in mind, because you start thinking, as we always do in our classroom, to get down to the questions that we normally ask of our students. But this is taking a step back from that into that overarching concept. Open-ended is a piece that's very difficult to grasp, because you want it to be open-ended, you want it to move, but it's kind of against what we have really practiced in education. In education, we do want definitive means to an end, if you will, but what happens is our questions really lead toward that, and this is challenging. Create an overarching or an open-ended question that's going to allow you, in the process of bringing the knowledge to students and the students in their discovery of learning, to get to their own path, however that may be. So even though there's 25 of them, with the open-endedness, it allows the 25 to however many, 25 plus, possibly, but it allows them to get on the path that they need to get to make the sense of it. Without the open-endedness, without that language that makes it many paths to the end, students may not be able to follow that journey. So open-ended is important. Thought-provoking and engaging. Doug Fisher does a good job of also reinforcing this when he speaks to his productive group work. He speaks to, if you have a group, you want to give them a question that is going to put them at a spot where they don't necessarily know the answer. You want to challenge them. And that rings true. And his argument there is that if the question isn't written in a way to engage or make it thought-provoking, the students won't give it the time or respect of thought that it takes to answer it. And so by putting it out there just a little bit to really get them to get their synapses going, if you will, makes a much better environment for the kids to get involved and feel engaged. And some of that, as we'll talk more about today, gets into the language we're using in putting that together. Number 3 here, the higher order thinking. This is getting into some of that language right out of the Common Core. I know in Kentwood you guys have done a lot of work with the Common Core state standards, and so you see some of the language in there, the analysis, the inference piece. Those are some of those bigger ideas in those Common Core state standards that we're asking students to really strive for, especially when they're gathering evidence in their opinion components or gathering evidence from pieces of literature that they've read. Points towards important transferable ideas. And we're going to go deeper with this transferable concept, but within and sometimes across disciplines. This is a big one for us in elementary. I was a first grade teacher for 8 years before I got an opportunity at Grand Rapids, kind of at the district level, which led me to the Kent ISD. But when I was in that classroom, I know we have the 4 content areas that we're trying to bring in, and so this concept of transferable and across topic, if you will, plays a huge role, especially when we're trying to balance out and give kids the repetition and time they need in the literacy, but still get to those content areas and content pieces outside of literacy and math that they need to get. Additional questions. One of the buzzwords we've had lately is this concept of accountable talk. And we were just talking about this around accountable talk, and you'll hear people say things like, I'm wondering, or the challenging, or I would like to disagree with, or I agree with. You're hearing some of that. So how are the questions that you're creating an essential question? How does it provide an opportunity where that can become part of the conversation that your students are even then having? So how does it promote that opportunity where students are using that kind of language even with each other? Support and justification, kind of alluded to that one. That one jumps right into the Common Core. I believe it's actually Sickly Standard 1, where it's cite evidence, whether it's, and I don't know if it's quite that language at 5th grade, but inferred or explicit to support your claim or main idea. That one comes right out of Common Core language, but absolutely, it's not a matter of just giving an answer to that question, but why is it that you gave the answer that you did? Which gets back to challenging where we're at in education to say, what is that answer going to be? Is there a right or a wrong answer, or is there an answer that with the proper evidence can be proven or disproven? And then the last piece there is that concept of recurring over time. So here what we're getting at is that once you pose that question, is it a question, yes, possibly for that unit, but what learning down the road may, whether it's a connection you intentionally make or the students may make, that learning down the road might come back that might change what their thinking was around that question at the time. So how is it written in a way that as they learn more and more throughout the year, their answer might be a little bit different to what that essential question originally was? And so these are some of the pieces, and these are more out of the book, if you will, more of a direct approach, but these are some of the important components in an essential question. What I did here was, instead of just giving you out of the book, and you have the PowerPoint here, I've also electronically provided it for Mike, and he can forward it on to you. But this is a different perspective of kind of going through those key ideas. So instead of just giving you the book, in some ways, and I find myself doing this a lot in presentation, is giving you a text set. And so here are some another way to look at the qualities of an essential question, if you will. And you'll see, talking about this key concepts, beyond the curriculum, inquiry, prior knowledge, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, reflection, and creative and critical thinking. Just take a quick, let's just do a quick minute. Just turn to your partner, and you have the opportunity of reading the qualities from before with this. Just see where you see connections, explicit connections between the model I gave you here and this model. Just a quick minute. Just turn and talk. Go ahead.